Good afternoon, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, and members of the media. Welcome to this continuation of this urgent public meeting number 13 of today, Thursday, March 9, 2023. I would like to give a special welcome to the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Dr. Rudolph Samuel, the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Mr. Edward Duran, and their respective support staff. I would like to adjourn this meeting for a few minutes as MP Marlin is on his way to chair the meeting. Meeting adjourned.
Good afternoon and welcome back. After that brief adjournment, we will continue with the meeting. We have established in the meanwhile a quorum of 12 members, and please stand for a brief moment of silence. Thank you. We have not received any notice of absence from any member. We go over to notifications, and I do have two notifications. As you are aware, members of Parliament, as you're aware, the draft budget 2023 has been submitted to Parliament. This has been shared with you digitally, and tomorrow you will receive a hard copy of the draft budget. The intention is to start with the handling in Central Committee on Monday, March 13th, 2023, and a memo to that effect on the handling in Central Committee and in public meeting will be sent to you by the greffier later this afternoon. The second notification that I have is that on March 1st, 2023, Parliament received an invitation from the government of Aruba for the celebration of the Day of Hymn and Flag of Aruba, which will take place on March 18th, 2023. This document is registered on the incoming document 525 of the parliamentary year 2022-2023. Considering the handling of our draft budget 2023, I would like to propose that we do not attend and we do send congratulatory remarks. In the case members do not agree, this invitation will be scheduled for a Central Committee meeting for further handling. Are there any notifications from members? I see Member Angelique Roumeau.
Thank you. A pleasant good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman. Pleasant good afternoon to the honorable ministers here this afternoon with their support staff, and of course to my colleague MPs, and also to the viewing and listening public. Today I have a very happy notice, and that is to congratulate our debaters who represented St. Martin in Antigua over the past weekend. This is the first time that St. Martin won the debate championship. And I also want to congratulate my colleague, MP Heyliger-Marten, whose foundation has been, preparing our youngsters for debates for quite a number of years, the Heyliger-Marten Educational Foundation. Under this auspices, these youngsters represented St. Martin in Antigua, and they did an excellent job. They actually debated 3 topics. One of the topics was efforts to reverse climate change are doomed to fail. Caribbean countries should prescribe that 1/3 of parliamentary representatives must be female, and the Caribbean failure to take mental illness seriously has caused irreplaceable damage to families and communities. So they debated all 3 topics and they emerged the champions, and I would like to congratulate all of these youngsters and their team, and of course their mentors for doing an excellent job. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Roumeau, and we have the following speaker, MP Heyliger-Marten. MP, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to the ministers and their staff, members of Parliament. Good afternoon. Viewing public, good afternoon to you. Mr. Chairman, I am here to announce the great debaters of St. Martin who took part in the 51st Leeward Islands debate competition, which was held in Antigua. Through my foundation, the Heyliger-Marten Educational Awareness Foundation, for 18 years now, taking part in these debates, the first time we have won the championship. However, we have won many best speakers before and many moots before, moots which is the topic before, and we was great contenders throughout these last years. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate all the debaters who took part. Milton Peters College represented, LU, Learning Unlimited, and also St. Dominic High. I would like to congratulate each and every one of those debaters who make St. Martin proud, and also the LIDC, which stands for Leeward Islands Debating Competition. This competition it's held in every different island. Every year it's another island who hosts this event. It's very prestigious, and it's a great learning tool for our kids. About 2 years ago, the founder of this debate, Dr. Irish, out of Mount Strat, passed away. And I can say we have brought him here twice when we hosted the event in St. Martin. So we were honored to do that while he was alive. I would like to thank the parents who traveled with us, parents, uncles, aunties, and so forth, the coaches, Mr. Arundel, Roberto Arundel, Miss Winter, and also Mrs. Fleming. I would like to thank each and everybody, also the foundation members and all our sponsors who have taken part in this event. Thank you. God bless Martin. God bless our debaters. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Hyacinth Richardson. And the next speaker, MP Christophe Emmanuel. MP, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And good afternoon to you, our refereed. The Honorable Ministers and his supports and their support staff, good afternoon. My colleagues, good afternoon. The people of St. Martin, good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, today is a good day, and I think for the whole week, it's probably a better weekend for the whole lifetime of St. Martin. Will be a good thing when you see the people that you went to school with come out to be doctors. I am talking about no other than Yadira Boston and her husband Delroy, that earned their PhD at the University of the Virgin Islands in the field of education. I was smiling the whole day, as a matter of fact, when I saw it and read it on Facebook. I know a number of my colleagues probably read it and have seen it too themselves. But for me, Mr. Chairman, it's close by because I went school all the grades with Yadira, and I know the struggle that she went through with her husband, and they have reached a milestone that today we can call them Dr. Delroy and Dr. Yadira. And I just want to congratulate them and tell them that I am proud of them, and I think the whole island, as a matter of fact, is proud of them too, as well as husband and wife, for accomplishing the feat that they have done, that today now they earn the title as doctors in their respective field. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Christophe Emmanuel. And we have another announcement by MP Angelique Roumeau. This is not a second round, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I could not let this opportunity pass by. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague MP Emmanuel, because I actually told Dr. Boston when I heard the news that I was going to go on all radio stations to announce it. And here I am today with this opportunity, and it totally slipped me. But indeed, I am extremely proud of Ms. Boston. MP Emmanuel talked about her being his classmate, but I could say that she's a dear friend of mine. I know the struggles indeed that her and Dr. Pierre went through in terms of them doing their masters and now their doctorate degrees. And I'm extremely, extremely proud, especially of Dr. Boston, because I know her humble beginnings and I know the struggles. And her being an educator, we taught at vocational training school for quite a number of years together. And if I can say there's one person I believe that shares my passion when it comes to education and youth, is Dr. Boston. So I want to tell her that I am extremely proud of her and her husband, Dr. Pierre, for their accomplishments, and I know that St. Martin will be better having them in these positions. I thank you, Doctor. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Marlin. I give you doctorate now.
Soon to be. I thank you all for the notifications, and of course, I too join in wishing Dr. Yadira Boston and her husband, Yadira, who I know from the village of Dutch Quarter and played dominoes with her father, and indeed from humble beginnings right up the ladder to make it as a doctor in our community. And of course, congratulations as well to the Hyacinth Richardson Foundation for never giving up. They have started 18 years ago, and they have been able to continue every year, and to crown it off this year with a championship is nothing else but glorious, so to speak. We have, we hope, the final notification coming from MP Rolando Bryson. MP, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to one and all. Mr. Chairman, I would like to take a moment. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate what I consider to be the trifecta of major events in St. Martin, starting first with the Heineken Regatta, who have had a very successful event once again, getting back to their previous numbers that they used to be able to achieve. Very good that they have had that success. And then secondly, which is currently taking place right now in St. Martin, the SXM Festival, which opened yesterday with Grammy Award-winning, internationally acclaimed artist Black Coffee, an event that's bringing over 2,000, 3,000 people to the island. All the hotels are full, and that has been doing such an amazing job promoting the destination that even when we were in Panama for Parlatino, when I opened my Facebook, I actually saw a Facebook ad promoting SXM Festival and by extension St. Martin. So I know they're very aggressive and one of the best social media pushers when it comes to St. Martin. But thirdly and most importantly, Mr. Chairman, while I have been critical and expressed serious concerns about our carnival, about the SCDF, I have to say and acknowledge that I see they are moving forward. It looks like Carnival 2023 is underway. We have the first event that is coming next year. And Mr. Chairman, next month. Actually, next week is the first event. Mr. Chairman, I say that to say, yes, I can be extremely critical of any organization, but I can also give Jack their jacket. I see improvements, I see the activities that they're doing, and I remain very hopeful that they will be able to have a successful 2023 Carnival, which has always been my wish and my concern. So to all three events, congratulations. Thank you to what you do for bringing tourists to our island, to promoting the destination, and hopefully looking forward to be able to add a fourth event in the summer to St. Martin to expand what we already do with event marketing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Rolando Bryson. And with that, we move over to the agenda points for this public meeting, which was called as an urgent public meeting. The agenda point update on the current legislation and policies regarding the preservation and management of heritage, as well as the current status of the Monument Council and the Monument Fund. Incoming document 381 of the current parliamentary year, dated January 25th, 2023. This meeting was requested by several MPs, MP Solange Duncan, MP Melissa Gumbs, and MP Grisha Heyliger-Marten. It is good to note that today's meeting is a continuation of the meeting which started on January 27, 2023, after introductory remarks from the Minister of Romi and the Minister of ECYS. The proposal by MP Rumu to merge the agenda points to one was approved. In accordance with the Speaker's list, members of Parliament were then given the opportunity to pose questions in the first round. The meeting was then adjourned to allow the ministers time to prepare the answers to the questions posed by members of Parliament in the first round. Therefore, today, this continuation, and we now go over to the agenda point. At this time, I want to give the floor to the Honorable Minister of Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment, and Infrastructure, the Honorable Minister Duran. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to my colleague, Minister of Education. Good afternoon to the honorable members of Parliament, the support team here with us from both ministries, and a special good afternoon to the people of St. Martin that are tuned in. Mr. Chairman, before I delve into the answering of the questions, I would like to also join in congratulating our great debaters. I believe that this is a great accomplishment for St. Martin, and also congratulate my colleague and party member, Mr. Hyacinth Richardson, for this great initiative. And I think the people of St. Martin really have an additional thing to be proud of here today. Also, I would like to congratulate here on this forum Mr. Franklin Van Herp, who is now participating in the World Baseball Classics from St. Martin. I believe that indeed this is a great week for us, and I believe that it will be a great year for us all in St. Martin as we continue to invest in our future. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, thanks for your indulgence. I'll delve right into the answering of the questions posed. I'll start with questions posed by MP Duncan. Can land be issued to the museum? From a ministry's perspective, this can always be issued. However, such a request would have to come from the museum with the specifics on what they want to do, and the advice would be rendered by the department as such. The second question posed by MP Duncan, is there a procedure for persons to report a ruling that they find? Person can contact the inspection department by email or report any findings related to the ministry at any time. The MinVromi email, which is often used for complaints, can also be used, or vromi-inspections@stmartingov.org. Next question, how do ministries work together and how can it be improved? Currently, there is no comprehensive plan between the ministries of ECYS and VROMI. We are awaiting the finalization of the report on the destruction of this monument, after which I expressed the willingness to have persons from VROMI sit with the relevant staff from ECYS, not only to see where the Ministry of VROMI can assist, but also to ensure that we can, from our end, support the Ministry of ECYS with other monuments as well. Questions posed by MP Emmanuel. What type of work on a monument requires a permit, a building permit or a rebuilding permit? According to Article 1 of the Building Ordinance, any work that is not considered regular maintenance to a building or dwelling requires a building permit if changes will be made that are not already permitted. When a monument is the topic of a building permit, the monument permit will describe the changes that are permitted to the structure in question. How many permits are needed to remove, repair, rebuild, restore anything on a monument? The monument permit is the leading permit that will describe what other permits are needed, depending on the type of works to be performed. Was the monument permit issued for the courthouse from VROMI? The Ministry of VROMI does not issue any monument permits. I move on to the question posed by MP Gumbs. Reference is made on page 60 of the Spatial Development Vision. Can the inventory be made available to Parliament? The text in the Spatial Development Strategy refers to the different sites and which are identified on the draft zoning plans as valuable archaeology. This entails the following. Article 21. 21.1. Zoning designation defines areas as zone as valuable archaeology or in addition to their other designated uses, designated for the conservation, restoration, and expansion of archaeological values. The objective of the areas which are expected archaeological values is to protect the potential present artifacts by conducting preliminary research in areas with a high expected value prior to undertaking any construction. Based on the results of this preliminary research, further archaeological research can be conducted if necessary, and protective measures can be implemented. What is the comprehensive plan of approach between the two ministries to ensure effective protection of monuments? I refer the MP to the previous answer that I answered with respect to the other question posed. I move on to questions relating to VROMI from MP Bryson. Who gave the orders to the persons who own the machines? Based on a preliminary research and reports, the person that allegedly did the work is another person, then the company is Taliesin Construction. Move on. What are the procedures for listing who is responsible on a deed at the cadastre? The cadastre is a public registry, and the registry is based on the deed of properties. The registry reflects legal owner, entitled persons, and or properties in question. Move on to questions posed by MP Westcott Williams. What is the status of the 1950 Simpson Bay Bridge? The Simpson Bay Bridge is a protected monument registered under number S013. A copy of the registration was provided to Parliament. What is the status of the Simpson Bay cistern? The cistern in Simpson Bay is a government-protected monument registered under S009. A copy was also provided. What is government position on the Foga Salt Factory? The salt factory at Foga is a protected monument registered under B020. A copy of the register is provided to Parliament. We would like to see this monument restored to its former glory. However, significant funds will be required for this. A possibility is for the Monument Fund to play a role by aiding the funding for this restoration. What is the procedure of obtaining a building permit and the policy applied against the permit? This was in reference to the hillside policy. When a building permit has been requested, the process is evaluated, the permit against the applicable policies. That takes place. A review of the submitted drawings and/or information compared to the requirements of the policies, such as the hillside policy, the beach, the coastline policy, the parking policy, form part of the review for compliance. And this will determine whether the permit is advised positively or negatively upon. How many large projects are currently under review? It's difficult to say what the MP considers a large project. However, based on the question, I could say roughly 4 large projects on St. Martin. Has the Nature Environment Plan been sent to Parliament for approval? This policy was placed on public review and thereafter approved and established by the Ministry. As it is not customary for policies to be approved by Parliament, only legislation, it was not sent to Parliament for approval. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the questions I will pose to the Ministry of Romy, and I look forward to any clarifications that may be needed. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Minister Duran. And I before I give the floor to Minister Samuel, I would like to know if there are any clarifications for Minister Duran, as Minister Duran has another meeting to attend, I believe it was. So we go over to the clarifications by members of Parliament. We have the first clarification request by MP Duncan, then followed by MP Westcott Williams, and then followed by MP Melissa Gumbs. No. And MP Bryson. No, I'm seeing. Oh, MP Solange is there. MP Solange Duncan, Jr., you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the 2 ministers and their support team. And a good afternoon to the people of St. Martin tuned in. Mr. Chairman, I only have, I think, just one follow-up question or clarification to the minister. Through you, the minister mentioned that persons who have found monuments on their properties or maybe anywhere can send an email to the inspection department. I would like to know what the procedure is. Is it just an email comes in and then the inspectors check it out? Is there a written policy? Is there a written procedure? I just would like some clarity on that. And that's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Duncan. And we immediately go over to MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and a good afternoon. A good afternoon to my colleagues. A good afternoon to the ministers and their support staff. A good afternoon to our support staff, and a good afternoon to all tuned into this meeting. Mr. Chairman, I thank the minister for his responses and would like to ask, based on those responses, these documents that have been sent to Parliament, when exactly were these sent to the different registrations of the protected areas and buildings, so to speak, bridge among others. That's one thing. And Mr. Chairman, with respect to the nature plan, according to law, the nature plan should be sent to Parliament for approval. That's why I asked about it in the first place. So I would like the Minister's reaction to that. If the Minister peruses the law, it would show where the plan needs to be presented to Parliament and the Staten. So if the Minister could clarify those matters, I would be grateful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. The following speaker, MP Melissa Gumbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one clarification and a sort of, not an additional question, but regarding the inventory, Minister, I asked if it could be provided because the text in the spatial development plan says that one was done. So it sounded a little more definite to me. So if there is such an inventory, could that list then, like where are these sites, et cetera? That's essentially what I'm after. And not so much a clarification, but I had asked questions to both ministers. So am I to assume then that those will be answered by Minister Samuel? Because there were two questions that were technically addressed to both ministers. So I don't know if I should repose them or if I can assume that they're going to be answered by the Minister of Education. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP Gumbs. The following MP for clarification round, MP Rolando Bryson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon once again. Mr. Chairman, in response to my question regarding, or the answer that was given was who did the work. But just to clarify what my question actually was, who gave the order? Because I can understand that it could be many companies. Not to say that it's justifiable that this company that was named did anything good. But the question was, like the young people said, did this company wake up and choose violence that day? Or was it that they decided or had an order or had some proof from an owner or someone with power of attorney to say, here you go, I'm the owner, go right ahead. Because I think it would be strange for this company to just wake up on their own and go to a random property and knock down a building. So was the minister able to get any information on that, if possible? Also, there was a question I posed, and similar to MP Gumbs, I'm not sure if the question maybe would be answered by Minister of ECYS, but the question was actually to both ministers from the perspective of penal provisions. So in the monument law, there's a question about what recourse can be taken for a violation, but also in the spatial planning ordinance, there are also recourses that can be taken when there's a violation of any of the articles in that law. That's under Article 19 of the spatial ordinance. My question would be, if the demolition, so the monument side will be answered hopefully by the minister, but the demolition aspect, Article 28A, what is the penal provision for that? And the fact that this was destroyed without a permit, well, what are the steps the government can and may take to do what is stated here, which is at the expense of the offender, the minister is authorized to have work removed, prevented, or carried out, restored, et cetera, et cetera. So just looking at that Article 19 from their end, and then maybe the minister will touch on the Monument Council side. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Duncan. And there is a follow-up clarification request by MP Solange Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize that maybe some of my questions were not answered. One question was, is there a technical monument expert at VROMI? I don't think that that was answered. A technical expert that deals with monuments and so forth, I'm not sure. And also, if VROMI, I'm not sure, again, if Fort Amsterdam, I hear it's half protected, half private, or maybe it's fully private. I don't know if the minister has any insight into Fort Amsterdam, and if he can give any information on government's plans or ideas as it concerns Fort Amsterdam. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Solange Duncan. I assume the minister is ready to answer. Quick draw, McGraw. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With respect to the clarifications posed by MP Duncan, we will then, once received, we will then forward it to the relevant authorities, which in this case, the Monument Council and or the Ministry of ECYS via the Department of Culture. With respect to the second question, second clarification, no, there's no technical monument specialist currently in the Ministry of VROMI. I move on to clarifications from MP Westcott Williams. The first one was the respect to the documents. When were they sent? They were sent today, so they are in the possession of Parliament. And the second question on the nature plan, I'll get back to that on the clarification. The question posed by MP Gumbs, the clarification on the inventory, I will let the Minister ECYS deal with that on the inventory of the monuments. I move on to clarifications from MP Bryson. And indeed, I did mention who did the work, and that is allegedly, but I cannot give a definitive answer as to who gave the order. I believe that we are already a step in the right direction, and once we follow up, we will be able to find out if this is indeed the case. And again, I want to repeat, allegedly. That is based on preliminary information that came to the ministry. And on the second point, with respect to restore, repair, I will get back to you on that before the meeting ends. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Minister Duran. And we immediately now move over for further answering of questions to Minister of ECYS, the Honorable Minister Samuel. Minister Samuel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon to you and the Khifir. Good afternoon to the members of Parliament, and good afternoon to those in the Tribune. I would like to say good afternoon to my colleague minister and the support staff, and also to those who are here supporting me this afternoon. Good afternoon to the people of St. Martin and everybody who is listening to this meeting. Mr. Chairman, I too would like to join and congratulate the Hyacinth Richardson debating team for winning the debating competition. And I was also happy to be able to make it to the airport when they came in, even though I had some challenges that evening. I think they have made us proud. I commend my colleague, MP Richardson, for continuously pushing these young people to, to go further and further in their careers and their development. I would also like to join my other colleagues in congratulating Dr. Pierre and Dr. Boston with their achievements, and I will congratulate them and know that St. Martin will be better as we all move forward in our development. Mr. Chairman, I would like to now go over to the answering of the questions by the members of Parliament, and I would begin with the answering of the question of Member of Parliament Solange Duncan. The first question is, can Parliament receive all of the policies and procedures related to monument care? The answer is yes. We have attached this to the information provided to the Khifir. I would like to, if it was able to send this to the members of Parliament, not as yet, but Mr. Chairman, all of the policies and ordinances have been included and have been sent to Parliament so that they can be sent to the members of Parliament. The second question, is there a procedure in place for persons who find ruins in general? Yes. The procedures are stipulated in Article 7 of the Monument Ordinance. These procedures are findings, excavations, and excavations being movable monuments, or at least objects that the finder should reasonably suspect should be regarded as such, will be notified to the minister within 3 days, either by the finder or by the person executing the excavation work or his deputy. Article 12 of the ordinance also states that failure to comply with the articles of the monument ordinance may lead to consequences of a fine or imprisonment. What is the plan for the cleanup of FOGA? Mr. Chairman, the cleanup of FOGA took place, and a follow-up cleaning up of FOGA is also planned for the future, because we were not able to get to all of the mangroves and the manganital that was there that needed cleaning up. So another cleanup is planned for the future. What are the bottlenecks that the Monument Council may be experiencing from operating optimally? Now, in May 2019, the Monument Council submitted 2 letters to the government with recommendation to strengthen the policies towards the monument preservation. And the first letter brought forth the need for the Monument Fund to be established, which we are busy with, and to help owners following the passing of Hurricane Irma and Maria with the restorations. And the second letter recommended a national archaeologist after the then incumbent retired. The letter also indicated that in the current composition of the council, there was no actual legal expertise, which delays the work of the council. The following question: where is the Monument Fund? Please give a clear and direct response on where the fund is. The fund had to be established with a terms of reference, and that would then, a bidding will go out to establish who would be the winner to be able to establish the fund. In the process, there was an issue, and the project had to be restarted. So the terms of reference was redone in October, and we are busy with the process to have this done. Okay. What is the connection between VROMI and ECYS? In connection with monument care, how can the ministries work together more effectively moving forward? The Department of Culture is usually contacted by VROMI once a building permit has been requested for a property that may either be a protected monument or one that may be of historical significance, and then the exchange will take place between the 2 ministries. What are the government plans for the 160 year of Heritage Run? Plans and recommendations, plans and commemorating the importance of anniversary in a few months. The plans for Emancipation Day will include both educational programs as well as entertainment and celebrations. The following question: how does the Minister of Education see the museum? How much subsidy does the museum receive? And does the minister believe this is enough? What is the government plan regarding the museum moving forward? The museum is an important pillar in the preservation of heritage and archives. The museum is important to the continuous education of our history to our citizens. And the museum receives a total of 103,500 guilders for its annual activities and subsidies from government. Personally, I feel that maybe the museum should be given more money. I do hope that in the future we will be able to house the museum in the building that is going to be built for the library, and then in that way, the museum can strive and do better. The following question: the National Commission UNESCO, part of ECYS, Secretariat of UNESCO. Is the commission operating optimally? If not, what are the bottlenecks? What needs to be done so that the commission can operate more effectively? Yes, it is operational. The St. Martin National Commission for UNESCO will be restructured within the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports in order for the office to function more optimally than it is doing at the moment, even though it's doing pretty good. Then we go to the questions of MP Heyliger-Marten. When and why was the Monument Council created? What led to the decision to establish it? The advisory body, the Monument Council, had been in existence since 2014. The Monument Council was established because it is a requirement of the Monument Ordinance. The current council has been in place since 2019, and the Monument Council is required per Article 3 of the LB Ham ter uitvoering van het Monumentenlandsverordening. What procedure is in place? The procedure of the Monument Council can be found within a national decree on the structure and the working method of the Monument Council. Task and responsibility of the Monument Council. Article 2 of the procedures further explain that the task of the councils are: the council advises the minister and parliament respectively. Another task of the council is that the council works together with the culture department within the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, which is charged with the preparatory and advisory work with regards to policy and regulations regarding monument preservations. How many buildings and / or ruins is listed? Is every building or / ruin listed? If not, why not? There are 50 buildings and ruins listed on the monument list. No, not every building or ruin is listed on the protected list. It was either that the properties were hidden at the time or destroyed. The protected monument list or / register will be revised in this year. The Monument Fund and Monument Restoration Committee, what is the status? The Monument Fund is currently still in the process of being establishing, which I also mentioned before. Is the Monument Council part of UNESCO Heritage Fund? No, the Monument Council is an independent advisory body that is responsible for providing the Minister of ECYS with solicited or unsolicited advice on matters related to monuments. Can the Monument Council issue fines? No, the Monument Council is not authorized to issue fines. If a private owner ignores the Monument Council, what legal measures are there? The Monument Council follows the rules of the ordinance. The Monument Council must inform the minister should they deem that someone has broken the law. Budget of the Monument Council. The budget of the Monument Council is 45,000 guilders per year. Can the Monument Council financially support the owner of a monument? No, the Monument Council cannot financially support owners' funding. That is the job of the Monument Fund. Diamond Estate. Did the government or any representative of the Monument Council approach or meet the owners of Diamond Estate property regarding the enlisting of the ruins on the Diamond Estate property? The answer: the Monument Council as well as the Department of Culture spoke with relatives informally on several occasions. The Department of Culture also met informally with a family member in preparation of the Diamond 26 run in 2022. These meetings were with the purpose of receiving permission, most naturally, from the family to use the property for the reenactment of Emancipation Day. Is there an archaeological report established? The ruins were known throughout history and recently rediscovered in 2022. Our understanding is that there was an earlier rediscovery in 2013 with a report drafted by the archaeologist stationed at Vromi at that time, Mr. J. Havisoff. Then I come to the questions of MP Rumu. Was there any restoration work going on this monument, and if so, by whom? No, there wasn't any restoration done on the monument. What are the workings of the council? Are there changes that need to be made towards their task or authority? No, the monument is an advisory council. What are the plans moving forward towards extending or new members? The plans is to extend the membership to 9, and the tenure of the council is coming to an end. As such, a search for persons interested in joining the Monument Council will be made available to the public within short. Does the council think that they need specific requirements for members? Yes, an assessment was done on the workings of the council. The council provides this advice to the ministry. There is need for persons more suited in construction, historical conservationists, and archaeology. I was advised to look into the providing of consultants also that are available to the council based on their expertise. Can the minister share what advice he has received from the council thus far? And did they indicate how they think the minister should move forward? I have been advised through the legal department on the way forward on the matter. Yezattenweg concludes that on the basis of Article 157 and 10 of the Monument Ordinance, Article 4 and Article 7 of the Monuments Decree, only those protected monuments that are registered in the public registry and have been demolished, destroyed, moved, damaged, or modified without the permission of the Minister of Education, Culture and Sports can be sanctioned as offenders. Yezattenweg concludes that only in cases where there is excavation work for research or discovery of monuments, a permit is required from the Minister of Education, Culture and Sports. Yezattenweg also advised to also ask the Monument Council for advice on basis of their task to provide the minister and the state, solicited and unsolicited, with advice on aspects relating to the preservation of monuments and to carry out the work assigned to them by or pursuant to any regulation. Question 6, did the minister meet with the council on the matter? Yes, I have met with the council since the incident. Then I come to the questions of MP Emmanuel. Exactly what is considered a monument? There are various definitions of monuments. These are derived from the Monument Ordinance, relevant decrees, as well as Maritime Ordinance. The definitions are as follows. Monuments, movable and immovable property, which have been manufactured for at least 50 years and are of general interest because of their beauty, their aesthetic value, their significance for science, the history of the country, or their folkloric value, including archaeological heritage. Town and villas views are also considered according to the definitions. Protected monuments under the definition are monuments registered in the registers established or pursuant to the Monuments Decree. Then you have protected landscape and villascapes. These are townscapes and villascapes that are registered in the register established by or pursuant to the Monument Decree. And then you have archaeological heritage, which are structures, objects, or remains that independently or collectively, whether or not in the context of the site indicate human activity that took place in the past, but in any case, more than 50 years ago. Then you have underwater cultural archaeological heritage is considered to be all traces of human existence having a cultural, historical, or archaeological character which have been partially or totally underwater, periodically or continuously for at least 50 years, such as sites, structures, building, artifacts, and human remains, together with their archaeological and natural context, vessels, aircrafts, other vehicles, or any other part thereof, and also objects of prehistoric character. The following question: how many registered monuments are there on the books at the Monument Council? As mentioned before, there are 50 registered protected monuments. This list is also provided in the attachments of the documents. So you would see all the 50 monuments listed there. The following question: is the courthouse a monument? And if yes, for how long have they been a monument? The courthouse is a protected monument and has been so since 2008. What type of work on the monument requires a permit or a building permit? All of the required permits which can be needed to do work on a monument. The following works require a monument permit: to break down or move, to destroy or damage, to change in any way, to repair, use, or allow to be used in a way that mars or endangers it. It is prohibited to carry out excavation work or to have it carried out for the purpose of detecting or investigating monuments without a permit from the minister or in violation of the conditions to be set with such a permit. Fines during excavations or excavations, being movable monuments, which I read before, or at least objects that the finder should reasonably suspect should be regarded as such, will be notified to the minister within 3 days, either by the finder or by the person executing the excavation work or his deputy. Do you have a monument permit or weather permit for the work being carried out now at the courthouse? The courthouse received a permit in 2021 to carry out repairs in the interior of the monument and doors and windows. However, the courthouse did submit a request for a monument permit in phase 2 in October 2021, and this was now granted on February 2024. I must explain here that indeed this, I must explain, so I would repeat. The courthouse received a monument permit in 2021 to carry out repairs to the interior of the monument and the doors and the windows. However, the courthouse did submit a request for a monument permit for phase 2 in October 2021, and this was now granted on February 24, 2023. I must explain here that during the meeting, it was asked if the courthouse had a monument permit. And because of the transactions that was going on and the busyness, it was explained that the process, the permit was in process. And that is the permit that was issued on the 24th of February, 2023. There have been some developments since then, and as latest as yesterday and today. And those developments are that the monument permit that was issued to the courthouse for the renovations, which they requested in 2021, that monument permit was violated, meaning that work that was requested to be done with the monument permit for phase 2, other work was done. And one of the things that was done recently is that a window was made in a door at the back of the courthouse on top. I went to see it myself, and the permit issued to the court on February 24th, 2022 did not permit this, and in the request for phase 2, that was not also mentioned. So today, Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports have issued a building stop to the courthouse to get an assessment as to what is going on, and then we can see how we move forward with the project. Question 6, does the government have an estimated value of all the monuments on St. Martin? No, the government does not have an estimated value on all monuments of St. Martin. 7, estimated value on the courthouse. Who owns the courthouse? No, the ministry does not have an estimated value of the courthouse. The courthouse is owned by the country and is managed by the Hof Justitie. Who built the courthouse? What labor was used, and were they paid? The courthouse was built in 1793, designed by John Heyliger, and the orders of the commander of Willem Henry Rink. I cannot tell you, Honorable MP, whether they were paid or not. Can a breakdown be given on the work which was done before and what is being done now on the courthouse? The work for the monument permit for the courthouse, which was granted in 2020, are as follows: replacing the broken windows and doors with T111 wood, replacing the fencing around the courtyard and the balustrades on the balcony, painting, beautifying around the area, and painting of the building. Who and what makes an item placed on the monument list be called a monument? Who does this? Within the country decree, the criteria for the designation of a monument to be protected can be found. Then I go to the following question. Is the rock wall a monument? The rock wall that are not on properties designated as protected monuments are not protected monuments. They do fall under the definition of monument, correct? Did the Monument Council receive a request from the courthouse for a monument permit? Did Minister ECYS sign a decree for a request for a permit for the work being done on the courthouse? I just explained that. The Monument Council received an initial request in 2020 for phase 1 of the repair works, and the Monument Council then received a request for phase 2 in October 2021. The Monument Council recently advised positively on the request, and the administrative process is now completed, and that is why the permit was granted. I must also, in all fairness, indicate that the Monument Council did indicate that the information went to the wrong email, and that is why the delay took place. What is the role and function of the Monument Council, and how many persons on the council, and what are their roles and function? The council advises the minister and parliament respectively in accordance with the provisions of Article 3, Paragraph 2 of the Monument Decree. In connection with the performance of its duty, the council works together with the Culture Department within the Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports, which is charged with preparatory and advisory work with regard to policy and regulations regarding monument preservations. The cemetery wall. The cemetery wall in Cul-de-sac, is that wall a monument? Yes, the entire public cemetery is a protected monument as of 2008 and is registered in the monument number B007. Is the Monument Council aware that the cemetery wall is leaning at 35%? At the base of the cemetery wall, there is no footing anymore. Is there any plan for the cemetery wall to be strengthened at the moment? The ministry has been made aware in the past of the wall leaning. There is currently, at this moment, no plans in place to repair it. Are there any plans in the future to fix the wall? At this time, there aren't any plans to fix the wall by the ministry. The department will request CMARC to do a survey on the wall of the public cemetery. Has the Monument Council ever done a tour on the island to ascertain what can be established for any emerging monuments or centuries to come? If yes, can they provide a list of such? Yes, the Monument Council has done several tours of the island, of both its protected monuments and monuments. The Monument Council did advise on revisiting the current monument list and register. Is the natural pool a monument? And some persons ask, where is the natural pool? The natural pool is located in Back Bay, and the natural pool is not a protected monument and is not on the monument registry. Then I go to the questions of MP Gumbs. What is the holdup with the establishment of the Monument Fund? I have mentioned this, I think, twice in the answers that I have given. What would be the total budget of the fund, and have any cuts been made to the budget? The total budget was 2012, 1,000 guilders, 2012, 500 guilders. In 2022, the amount has now been reduced to 62,000 for the year of 2023. The total amount needed for the fund to function optimally would be at least 250,000, of which includes a director and staff, and the renting or owning of a facility subsidized or loaning of funds. This amount does not include the financial needs for a monument care agency, as that is a separate entity. Then we have question 4. What is the plan of approach within Minister Vromi and ECYS to ensure that this does not happen again? Include workflows of what is needed. We continue to inform and consult each other on the various requests that come in. The question from Member of Parliament De Weaver. Where is the dialogue between the Ministry of TEAD, Vromi, ECYS? Where is the dialogue between these ministries that is supposed to happen? There is continuous dialogue between the staff of the 3 ministries. There is a working relationship between TEAD and MECIS, where events and promoting St. Martin as a cultural destination takes place. MECIS is always consulted or informed by FROMI on matters related to monuments. Where is the dialogue between TEAT and MECIS and FROMI? That's basically like the same question. So there is constant dialogue between the ministries. And then we have the questions from MP Hyacinth-Richardson. What will be done to prevent this from happening again? And I think he's referring down to Diamond 26 Estate ruins. The Department of Culture has been working on a campaign called The Essence of Your Monument. This campaign will ensure that people, especially monument owners, are educated and advised on matters related to their monuments and monuments around the island. Then we come to the questions of the Member of Parliament, R. Bryson. Can the government indicate if this has been a formal report for the destruction of the property? We obtained advice from Legal Affairs, which concluded that the government could not request a formal investigation on the matter. The advice from Legal Affairs have also been provided to Parliament. Who stands to benefit most from this? Maybe a real estate, we don't know. Will the government research who was responsible, who gave the orders? No, after receiving legal advice, we have decided not to do it because you would need legal advice in order to legally follow someone. What is protected monument? If not, why not? No, it is not a protected monument. Who is the entity charged with identifying possible monuments? Minister ECYS has ultimate responsibility, and various articles state based on advice given by the Monument Council. Yes, anyone who deems something eligible to be a protected monument may propose this to the Minister of Education, Culture, and Sports with arguments for why. For a monument to be entered into the registry, it would need approval by Parliament. And then we get the questions of Member of Parliament Westcott Williams. Are the ministers aware of the document Historic Bridges of St. Martin by J. Harvester and Elsha Bosch? If you are aware, what has become of it? Yes, I am aware of the paper on historical bridges, and the document is available online as well as by CMARC. It is worth considering the 1950s. Is it worth considering the 1950s Simpson Bay Bridge? The Simpson Bay Bridge is a protected monument since 2009. What is the status of the Simpson Bay cistern in terms of monumental symbols? The Simpson Bay cistern is a protected monument and has been so since 2009. The cistern was recently repaired by the St. Martin Development Fund, who received a monument permit in August of 22. What has been requested by the St. Martin Museum and Heritage Foundation for subsidy, as opposed to what they have been receiving from government? The museum requested approximately 172,000 guilders in 2022. They are currently receiving 103,500 from government in subsidies. What has the government done where it concerns preserving and protecting the Great Salt Pond, the landfill, the ring road, and the vendors? The answer here is nothing yet. There is always talk about protecting parts of the salt pond with the salt pans, but there have not been any move to do so. Vision action plan for Foga Salt Factory. There will be an investigation into all public monuments, including FOGA, which looks at issues as cleaning up and maintaining the properties. Can the government explain why the budget of the Monument Council was reduced with 100,000 guilders? The Monument Council at the moment receives 45,000 guilders. When was the last time that reporting to Parliament took place? The Monument Council is to report to Parliament annually per ordinance. An unscheduled reporting took place in December 2022. The booklet from 1994, Protected and Historical Sites of St. Martin, what is the follow-up to this? The Department of Culture is aware of the booklet. The Department of Culture is in the process of conducting historical research on the monuments and their previous and or current owners. The information will be made available to the public in an updated registry. How is the government guaranteeing that booklets such as these remain up to date? Once the information within the ministry is updated, the public and authors of these booklets may update their information accordingly. What is the understanding and collaborating on education and tourism? What is the understanding on collaborating on education and tourism? The ministry always advocates collaboration in the areas of education and tourism in all sense of the word. Question 12, the government informed that culture in collaboration with UNESCO will organize. Has this happened? There are multiple activities being planned with UNESCO together with the Department of Culture. These include educational materials in the ICH, Intangible Cultural Heritage, and the Tangible Heritage. The iRich campaign was also to be launched in 2022, but met with some delays. It is the intention to launch the campaign in 2023 with websites, booklets, PSAs, and other means of communication that will also provide teaching materials to schools and organizations. Is this projected in any government capital investment budget of government? No, not in capital investment. There are funds made available by UNESCO and the Department of Culture to execute this project. The amount budgeted for ICH under the Department of Culture is $39,459, while UNESCO has a budget of $30,000. What is the status of the upgrade of the John Lamini Center? The upgrade is projected in 2023 capital expenditure of the budget. ICH teachings, has this happened? If not, please explain. The department, together with UNESCO, is still working towards launching the Intangible Cultural Heritage programs. We have been met with some setbacks with the website, but it is being worked on. Has the training of policy officers in the ICH happened? Yes, the first training took place in December 2022. Based on what vision is relationship being done? There is collaboration between the Kingdom partners of the Kingdom Intangible Heritage Committee. In September 2022, St. Martin established its own ICH committee. The tasks are to be executed by the committee as follows: planning, organizing, and executing of capacity building workshops, networking with ICH committees from other countries, researching, reporting, and advising on ICH of St. Martin, expanding the current ICH list based on research, filling in application forms for national, regional, kingdom, and international lists for governmental approval, and the development of programs and activities related to ICH for schools, youth, and adults. We come to question 18. National Theatre. Is this being reflected in the budget of 2023? It would then have to be. No, this is not reflected in the budget of 2023. Are both ministers and staff aware of the listing of what should be all policies of government on the government websites. Are the ministries aware of these? Have a look and give an indication of where they stand. In regards to the Department of Culture, the laws and policies are currently being uploaded. Question 20, should we have up-to-date policies? Yes, we should. We are currently updating legislations, working decrees, and policies related to culture. What policies exist is the final question, and at the end of the pages, you would have all the policies and ordinances submitted to the members of Parliament. Mr. Chairman, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to provide the members of Parliament with questions, with the answers to questions, and I await any further clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. Thank you for the answers, and we will now grant an opportunity to members of Parliament who would want a clarification, one or more clarifications to questions asked. And I see the first request comes from MP Christophe Emmanuel. MP, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I can appreciate the answers given by the minister. However, I would like to put him through that explanation again concerning the monument permit from 2020, 2021, then granted. It was a bit hard for me to comprehend, Mr. Chairman, so I would like the minister to explain it again, if you don't mind. Really, when was it granted? Because the gist that I got is that it was granted in 2021 for works that is being carried out now in 2023. So I'm confused a bit. If they, for the second phase I'm talking about, do they have a permit for the second? I am confused, Mr. Chairman. So I would like the minister to explain that again, please. And also the question that I asked concerning the labor for the building of the courthouse, the labor. Who built it? Not, yeah, I understand who designed it and who commissioned it, but the labor, who built it? And where they paid for it? You said you don't know, but who built it? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Christophe Emmanuel. The next MP on the list, MP Solange Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My apologies. Mr. Chairman, a group of us, almost all of us, were in Curacao last week for IPCO. You drive around the country and you see World Heritage Site, UNESCO signage. I mean, they've had a head start. But we see the fruits of the labor of governments of the past to ensure that heritage is preserved, that their heritage is protected. My clarification question. A number of us asked the minister, where is the monument fund? And the minister said that there was an issue with the tour. The original advice was drafted, I believe, in 2019. I believe SOAB was also involved. Can the minister, in the spirit of transparency, let us know or tell us what the issue really is? Because now the project has to be restarted. That means that it will take another 4 or 5 years, if it continues the way it does, for the Monument Fund to be established. And I think that this is extremely concerning. So I would like to know through you, Mr. Chair, exactly what the issue is with the Monument Fund and what does it mean when the minister says the project and the tour needs to be restarted and so forth. And that is my only clarification question. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Duncan. We now go over to MP Melissa Gumbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, my clarification is kind of in line with MP Duncan's. The two questions that I asked that indeed the Minister of Education was meant to answer regarding a comprehensive plan of approach between the ministries of RAMI and Education and the workflow of what that would look like between Monument Council, ECYS, and VRAMI. The answer was we continue to inform and consult each other, but with all due respect, this meeting has been postponed about 3 weeks now, pending almost a month. And I find it hard to believe that there's not at least an A4 that we could be kind of given to explain how these two ministries, as well as others, intend to move forward with protecting our heritage and our monuments, etc. To echo again what MP Duncan said, as we see others have been able to somehow do so, albeit we all share the same history. So if the minister could just clarify, like, what is the plan then moving forward with regards to a plan? Thank you.
Thank you, MP Melissa Gumbs. And I move on to MP Rolando Bryson. MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have a few clarifications, and I think this just highlights why it was important to have both ministers in this meeting. Because I think the minister should clarify his answer regarding what government can do or what ECYS can do. Because there are two elements here. From the Monument Council perspective, if it is not a protected monument, there's limited action that can be taken. That can be clear. But like I asked earlier in the clarification, on the VROMI side of things, there's also responsibility regarding demolitions, Article 28A1E. So I want the minister to clarify that his statement that we can't investigate is not the whole government. That VROMI should be able to, from the context of their spatial planning ordinance, but clarify that on the monument ordinance side, because it's not a protected monument, that is why that law investigative powers don't kick in. I think that's how I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that needs to be clarified. Secondly, I asked the question about not whether it was protected or not, because obviously that question has been answered. It was why not? So, okay, obviously we knew by the time it was demolished, it was not a protected monument. But why? Was it the owners, a challenge with the owners? Is it the Monument Council? How long did the Monument Council know of this property? We know the Culture Department had a beautiful event there, so at least since then. So I needed to know the why. Why is it not, and where was the bottleneck to preventing it from being a protected monument today? And that was my two clarifications. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Rolando Bryson. We have no further request for clarification. Minister, would you need some time before you can? 10 minutes. I adjourned the meeting for 10 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Well, we'll do 13 until 4:10. 10 minutes after 4. Meeting adjourned.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. I give the floor to the Minister of ECYS, Mr. Samuel, to answer the points of clarification posed by the members of Parliament. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would begin with answering the clarification questions of Member of Parliament Christophe Emmanuel. The question was, can I explain again the situation in regards to the permit for the courthouse? The courthouse requested a monument permit for 2 phases. They requested in 2020 a permit to do repairs in phase 1, and that permit was granted and the work was carried out. And then in 2021, they requested a second monument permit to carry out work in phase 2. That permit was granted on February 24th, 2023. That's last month. However, in regards to that permit, I have detected that work is being done outside of the scope of that permit. And for that reason, I have issued a building stop in order to do an assessment as to what is happening, and then together with all parties involved, we can move forward in the right way in regards to the monument. I can say to the members of Parliament and also to the public, one of the things that has happened, if you look in the back of the courthouse, a window was made into a door, and I think that is not the monument that I know. So I have to see what's going on, and that is why the building stopped. We will make an assessment, communicate with everyone, and then we will see how we will move forward. When it comes to the labor and who built it, we don't know who built it and the labor. Then I go to the question from MP Duncan, where is the monument fund right now? Indeed, MP, in 2019, there was a process that started. And that process, after halted, and I will take into consideration, 2020 with the COVID and everything, at one point it reached to the point where it was submitted for approval, and I believe it is Article 47, where it is more than 50,000 guilders played a role, and then it had to go to a bid. So that was reversed. That whole process was reversed, and then a new terms of reference had to be made up. So we could not allot the establishing of the monument fund to whichever organization. That had to start over. That went well until the process was compromised, and I don't want to go into the details there. And because of that, if a process of a bidding is compromised in any way, you would have to do it over. And most naturally, we at the Department of Education and the Ministry are not happy with that situation, but we have redone the terms of reference and is busy with it. Thank you. Then the question of Member of Parliament Bryson, in regards to the ability to investigate, that information that I received from YZ is for ECYS, Cultural Department, because that is totally different than what happens on the side of my colleague. Very interesting. On one side, there are rules and regulations possible, and on the other side, there are some not possible. And indeed, we would have loved to go and find out all the things that we need to find out, but if you cannot legally do something, you just don't make sense to go and do it. It would be wrong. The monument, is it protected, and why not? Now, it is not protected because it's not on the list, and it has not reached there as yet. And yes, you would like me, maybe someone would say yes, but can you indicate? No, I cannot indicate. It just hasn't reached there yet. And I think, Mr. Chairman, that brings me to the end of the clarifications of the questions that was asked. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. According to the speakers list, MP Gumbs, you have the floor.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, maybe I missed it, but I was trying my best to pay attention to kind of indication of the clarification I asked. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Honorable MP is correct. The Honorable MP is correct, and we would like the indulgence of the MP to be able to present that.
Thank you, Minister. Is that okay? Yeah. So according to the speakers list, I have MP Duncan for the second round. MP Duncan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the Minister for his answers. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I have to review the documents that were sent. I need time to do that. But I must say that budget debate is coming up, and I will further investigate not only the documents, but I think I really have to dissect what the issues are as it concerns the preservation of our heritage. I know that I'm going to just call it a capacity crisis. We can't say, oh, we have capacity problems. It's a crisis. Because if we don't have the people to get things done, then we need to come up with a plan. If we don't have the resources, we need to come up with a plan. And it's as if, it's like we're in a rut and we can't get out of the rut. And so I am going to take my time to review the documentation because I believe that we are in a very crucial time in our history as a country, and we need to act. We need to act now. The entire Dutch Caribbean is getting prepared. My answers on Emancipation Day, my questions on Emancipation Day weren't answered, but I actually feel very comfortable because I know that Ms. Clarice will put on a show. I hope so. Although, of course, under the disappointment that the ruins at Diamond Estate were destroyed, or at least flattened. But I will say again, Mr. Chairman, that I have to review those documents, and then I look forward to asking more questions in the budget debate, because this is extremely important. We cannot continue like this. We are lacking policies and working groups. Both ministers said, yeah, we talk to each other sometimes. There is no policy in place. There is no structured a program as it concerns heritage preservation. None. We do not have a proper national museum. So what are we doing? What are we really doing when it comes to our identity and who we are? Mr. Chairman, I will be back during budget debate. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Duncan. The next person on the list is MP Grisha Heyliger-Marten.
No need, Mr. Chairman.
No need. Then I move forward. The next person is MP Angelique Rumu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As my colleague Duncan stated, I would also like to state the same. I have no follow-up questions. However, I will be preparing for the budget debate, and I look forward to that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Angelique Rumu. The next person is MP Christopher Emmanuel.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, it's curious that the minister came and he gave the name of the individual who commissioned the courthouse to be built in 17-something, I believe he said, 1793, something like that. Mr. Chairman, during that time, slavery was still going on in St. Martin. You know? Slavery wasn't abolished as yet. But when I asked the minister what labor was used to build it, he don't know. The research was done to know who commissioned the building of it, but the research is not done as the labor that was used to build it. St. Martin had 21 plantations, you know. And I could tell the minister 4 of those plantations, the labor was used from those 4 to build it. What kind of labor do you think that was? I am asking the minister what labor was used to build the courthouse and where they paid for it. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, when we went to IPCO in Curacao, I stayed in a suite called Mystique Suites. Mystique Suites in Rooseweg. I hope I pronounce that Roda?
Rodeweg, yeah.
Rodeweg. I hope I pronounce it well. And along that street, there was a number of, I don't want to say old, but dated buildings. And when you walk and you pass them, each and every one of them had a plaque on the building, a little seal on the building that says, Function something something in Papimento Monument. So you knew exactly that this is a monument, that's a monument, that's a monument. It was dated, the foundation name was on it, so you could tell what all was a monument. You see the historical building, and it still remains, a footprint of it still remains. There you go. I would like to ask the Honorable Minister if he have ever seen it on any one of his trips to Curacao, and if he would consider something similar to that to be done on St. Martin. Those are just a few of my questions. I have much more, but I know my colleague, Hyson Richardson, said he has to leave, and I don't want to be able to hold back no one with the amount of questions that I have. I'll just save them for the budget debate. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Christopher Emmanuel. The next person I have is MP Melissa Gumbs. MP Gumbs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't have any further questions. In fact, I would kind of echo MP Emmanuel's. But like MP Duncan and Romu said, I think it's important to reflect as well on what MP Emmanuel shared. We talk a lot about our history. That is a topic of discussion at IPCO. It's been a topic of discussion here since 2020. And very often people get a sentiment that we have only our colonial history to blame for why our monuments are not protected, why our history is not protected, why our legacy is not protected. But the truth of the matter is, these are our decisions to make. Other islands have managed to do so. Curacao, Aruba, Bonaire. The wonderful Amaris Richardson from the Simon Museum presented all of this to those who went to the presentation of the Slavery Museum pending to be built in Amsterdam. So those who attended, as MP Duncan did, would know that other islands have somehow managed to do that despite our shared history. So it is time that we decide that this is what we want to do. That's it. The Great Salt Pond, we could have decided to save it. We did not. And that's really what this is about, the political will to actually come together, which is why I was so frustrated about the lack of a comprehensive plan when this meeting has been postponed for 3 weeks now. When this has been a topic of discussion since 2020 by a government that says it cares about this topic. So really, it's time to put your money where your mouth is, literally and figuratively, and just do the thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP Gumbs. The next person is MP George Pantoflet. MP George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. To the chair, my colleagues in Parliament, those persons who are viewing, who are listening. Mr. Chairman, you know, you want to avoid the past, but unfortunately it's very difficult to do so. Mr. Chairman, I am wishing much strength to our ministers, Minister of Romi, Minister of Education, Dr. Alazuri Samuel, and also Minister of Romi, Mr. Duran, because you find yourselves in quite a predicament. Because, again, in order to get things done, you need stability. okay? And I understand now we need to get things done ASAP. But let's keep in mind that we had previous governments prior to 10 who did not focus on these things. They did not focus on these things, Mr. Chairman. So again, I get a little irritated when I hear, get it done now, you're not doing anything, where are your plans? Yeah. Chairman, let us get ourselves a chance to do the work, okay? And then we're going to ensure things are done, because you see, a document I can't find, unfortunately, because I was doing some cleaning, I get rid of it because, you know, sometimes the wife said too much junk in a place. I had a document where how Fort Amsterdam got into the hands of the Dutch or whatever. A document, Mr. Chairman, where monies went in order to pay salary of civil servants because they didn't have it, Mr. Chairman.
500,000.
Thank you. So I'm not making stories. When I stand here, Mr. Chairman, I don't make stories, okay? I make sure I say what I can defend. So let us understand that these things didn't start today. Yes, we want things done. This is a new age. Things must happen overnight. No. But let's be realistic. No. We want them to happen presently, but it'll take time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP George. The next person I have is MP Ludmila D. Weaver.
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Ludmila. The next person is MP Hyacinth Richardson. Hyacinth. No? The next person is MP Rolando Bryson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon once again. Mr. Chairman, you know, I must say, it is true that sometimes the Parliament and many members of Parliament, we look at what the Netherlands is doing, and it was mentioned. There are certain things, indeed, we can't blame Holland. What has happened with Diamond Estate? It's not politics 3,000 miles away. It's politics connected to people right in this building for greed, for selfish reasons. These are the same people, Mr. Chairman, are now preaching regeneration. That's what their mantra is all of a sudden. Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'm interested in regenerating today is the damage that was done to Diamond Estate. Let them start there. Because I asked the question very specifically, not who did the work, but you know what is interesting about that? This individual, he gonna talk. And he will say who gave the order. It just needs to be investigated. There's someone that owns that property. There's someone that has power of attorney over it and gave the order to do it. And Minister is taking your time, but I think the Parliament needs to make a statement as well about this. Because we could protect every monument we want. List them as protected monuments. But if in the hidden of the night, we as Parliament allow that it's okay and it goes unaddressed, that somebody can just go and knock down a monument like this of such significance and importance to our people in the night. Mr. Chairman, it's not something that we should tolerate. A statement needs to be made, and I would look to propose such a statement by means of a motion, Mr. Chairman. Because, again, we have this meeting, and then what happens? This is what they're hoping for, because this is what used to always happen. They do something, they get away with it, and they count on the forgetfulness of our people to not remember the bad that they have done. They are counting on it today again. This is the mantra of the Democratic Party. But we cannot let what happened at Diamond Estate continue with that again. Because there's reasons why we are left in 2010 from there. Mr. Chairman, I would like to read a motion I would like to present today. In its meeting of March 9, 2023, the Parliament of St. Martin, considering the demolition of the building known as Diamond Estate and its historical significance, that the Monument Council has expressed, quote, profound sadness and anger regarding its demolition and, quote, property may be private, but that does not give persons the right to devalue property in the pursuit of their own interest. That the Monument Council also stated, and I quote, as a way forward, the Department of Culture, in consultation with the Monument Council, will issue an advisory document to undertake a survey of the property to determine the full historical scope of the site and the ruins that remain present. That pursuant to the relevant national ordinances, the government could have legal recourse to restore the monument to as close as possible to its original state, as is the stated wish of the Department of Culture and the Monument Council, and the sentiment of many of our citizens. That the land on which Diamond Estate is has an owner and a person who has power of attorney over that property. Resolves for the government of St. Martin to expedite the Department of Culture and the Monument Council's efforts to determine the historical significance of the remaining rubble, which could lead to the area and remaining rubble being placed on the protected monument list. For the government, in the context of being able to establish violations to both the monument and spatial planning ordinances, investigate who the ultimate offenders are in the demolition of Diamond Estate in order to restore the monument based on the ruins that remain present as recommended by the Monument Council. And that if offenses and the offenders have been established in accordance with the penal provisions of the monument and spatial planning ordinances, legal action is taken necessary to rebuild the Diamond Estate at the expense of those who are responsible of the demolition of the monument in the first place, and to report back to the Parliament within 3 months on the actions taken in regards to these resolutions. And goes over to the order of the day. This is co-signed by MPs George Pantaflet, myself, MP Bryson, and MP Hyacinth Richardson. Mr. Chairman, I'm hoping that with everything I've heard from everyone in this meeting, that this would get the support of members of Parliament. It is simply asking the ministers to use what is at their disposal to find out what took place and who is responsible, and do what the Monument Council and the culture and the people of St. Martin are asking. Build it back, restore it to as close as we can, because that will also be a message psychologically for our people, that you can't just break us down. We are resilient in every sense of the word. Therefore, if we are resilient, so should our heritage, so should our history, so should be our people. But the symbol of passing that every day and seeing that rubble is one of the most demotivating things I have to pass through every day when I go home from work. Especially knowing the audacity of people to come and deflect about what about Bouverkunning and what about the policy and what about this. Just trying to find every possible way around the fact of who did this and why they did it, for greed. So I would like to understand today from us as members of Parliament if we are serious about taking action. I too will say, yes, ministers, especially Minister of ECYS through you, Mr. Chairman. That's why I asked the question, how is it possible that there's a process going on for this monument, and somehow, coincidentally, while this process is going on, at the covers of night, it is destroyed? What is going on here? And could this not have been found earlier? The minister is saying he doesn't want to basically point the fingers. Okay, so be it. But then let's make sure this doesn't happen again. I look forward to seeing the ideas of my colleagues. I think MP Duncan mentioned that she has something she would like to present related to the protection of monuments. I look forward to that. She clearly has a lot of information, and especially from a policy perspective, what needs to be improved. But that's on the government. I keep saying, oftentimes there's a lot that the government has to do. But I want to see today, what is the Parliament going to do? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. The next person is MP Sarah Westcott. Thank you, members of parliament, for your questions in the second round. I would like to adjourn for a few minutes to discuss with the minister how he wants to proceed with the answers. Are you ready right away? They had a few questions. Christopher, MP Emmanuel. I'll adjourn for 2 minutes. Meeting adjourned. Welcome back. As you all know, we have received a motion from MP Bryson, and the staff is working on making the copies and distributing with the members of parliament. We'll adjourn for 5 more minutes and we'll continue. Meeting adjourned. come back. I give the floor to the Minister of Education to answer in the second round. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there was, again, the question about who have built the courthouse and if they were paid. And as I indicated before, I don't know specifically who built the courthouse and if they were paid. Then there was another question from Member of Parliament Bryson, Christopher Emmanuel with the plaque.
Yeah.
That is MP Christopher. And I would like to indicate that the idea of the plaque, and not just only the plaque, but you can have a building in where you have a picture placed on the building which indicates what the building looked like before. We at the ministry have been busy with this type of process, and you can imagine that we can put on a building a code, the QR code, and when you scan the code, you can get the history of the building or the site or the area. And I want to then indicate what we have been telling not only Parliament, but St. Martin and in regards to our history. We first have to do our inventory. We have to collect data. We have to take the data and process it. And after process it, then we can establish the different ways, whether in books, curriculums, documentaries, videos. And then we have it preserved for the future. And every time I come to Parliament and we are talking about culture and historic value and our history, I will just remind that we are busy, but there are steps to do it in such a way that wherever, let us say, we end up, the future can continue. But you must do it in a very orderly manner. So doing the inventory, collecting data, and establishing it is one of the first set of things that you must do if we want to put down what is all pertaining to our history. You can imagine that we can then go from area to area to area. So if you go from one area, you go from Phillipsburg to Point Blanche to over the pond, over the bank to Hope Estate, Guana Bay. And every area you go, you can have a plaque. And that plaque can have a QR code. And that code can give you the history and the important people and sites of that area. So yes, we have been and are busy with that. In regards to the motion and that was presented, indeed, the ministry, ECYS, naturally together with the Department of Culture, will do whatever we have to do in order to support this, for it to become a success. And I would like to already indicate that in 2013, a sighting and a documenting of that area had taken place. I cannot indicate for 100% at this moment, and that's why I don't want to give wrong information, that the site was already being proposed to be a protected monument. We must take into consideration, though, that contrary to other countries, many properties in St. Martin are privately owned. So the approach is also different. But we, from the side of the ministry, we are busy with, and we do believe that our history should be established for the future. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Minister Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. With respect to my views on this motion, I must say that as a government, we inherited a lot of problems. I brought back Article 28A in this hall that was neglected for almost a decade. So therefore, it is important to note that this government has brought change in different areas, especially when it comes to spatial planning. The part that is I'm definitely in support of is for government in the context of being able to establish violations to both monuments and the spatial planning ordinance, investigate who the ultimate offenders are in the demolition of the Diamond Estate in order to restore the monument based on the ruins that remain present as recommended by the Monument Council. This was already in the planning, Mr. Chairman, based on our preliminary investigation that I mentioned. And I also want to say that it's important sometimes, and MP Bryson pointed out rightfully so actually, with respect to some people prey on the forgetfulness of our citizens. And in this time, in this day and age, I will do everything in my power to remind them. Because in order for us to know where we're going, we have to know where we came from. And with that note, Mr. Chairman, we took St. Martin out of a rut that it was in. And when some people talk about going back home, we never left. We stayed here, we endured the suffering, and we are bringing the people out of the suffering. Mr. Chairman, my job is to make the life of the current generation and the future generation easier. And that is my pledge. And motions like these, I believe, is steps in the right direction in terms of our heritage and our culture so that we know who we are as a people. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Minister. Does any member of Parliament has any clarification? MP Bryson, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, just a short point of order. I have submitted an amendment based on feedback received. Do I address that amendment now?
I will read it.
Okay.
The amendments.
Okay, just in response to what the ministers had pointed out and your clarification regarding the motion, indeed, I did take note of what you're saying that you wish to execute. However, for the ministers to be aware, which the chairman is about to read, that there was a swap in the word rubble being still instead of still being placed, but particularly to clarify the aspect of the investigation that the minister responded to make sure that he understands what is being said. On the third resolution, it says that if offenses and the offenders have been established, because if there's a question as to whether this is legally possible or not, there's a very simple response. The motion is asking the minister to see if there have been offenses. I may have my suspicions of what it is, and that is why in the fourth resolution, it says to report back within 3 months to Parliament on the actions taken. Okay? So if there are questions about the legality, that it is then the minister to tell us yay or nay. And I just want to confirm that the minister understands it that way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. There are no more clarifications. We have reached to the end of the deliberations on the agenda point in which one motion was submitted. We will start with handling the motion submitted. There was one motion presented by MP Bryson, and the motion reads, Draft Motion of Parliament, motion number 1, in its meeting on March 9, 2023, the Parliament of St. Martin, considering the demolition of ruins known as Diamond State and its historical significance, that the Monument Council has expressed profound sadness and anger regarding its demolition, and that property may be private, but that does not give persons the right to devalue property in pursuit to their own interest. That the Monument Council also stated that as a way forward, the Department of Culture, in consultation with the Monument Council, will issue an advisory document to undertake a survey of the property to determine the full historical scope of the site and the ruins that are still present. That pursuant to the relevant national ordinance, the government could have legal recourse to restore the monument to as close as possible to its original state as it is stated wish of the Department of Culture and the Monument Council and a sentiment of many of our citizens, that the land on which Diamond State is has an owner and a person that has power of attorney over the property. Resolves. For the government to expedite the Department of Culture and the Monument Council's effort to determine the historical significance of the remaining rubble, which could lead to the area and remaining rubble still being placed on the protected monuments list. For the government, in the context of being able to establish violations to both the monument and spatial planning ordinance, investigate who the ultimate offenders are in the demolition of Diamond State in order to restore the monument based on the ruins that remain present as recommended by the Monument Council. That if offenses and the offenders have been established in accordance with the penal provisions of the Monument and Spatial Planning Ordinance, legal action is taken necessary to rebuild the Diamond State ruin at the expense of those are responsible of demolishing the monument in the first place. To report back within 3 months to Parliament on the actions taken in regards to these resolutions, and goes over to the order of the day. Copies of these motions will be sent to the Government of St. Martin, the Monument Council of St. Martin, signed by MP Bryson, MP Pantherflet, and MP Richardson. We go over to the voting of the motion number 1. Does anyone wish to have a roll call? Now for the motivation, I will give members to motivate their vote, which has to be briefly and concisely. Does any member of Parliament would like to motivate the vote? MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to motivate my vote as much as I can support this motion. I would love to see the Diamond Estate rebuilt. I would love to know more about the demolition of it and why it happened and the reasons for it happened. But I don't have much faith in this government doing it, Mr. Chairman. If you have a minister sitting here and can't even tell you who built the courthouse, I probably should have asked him who he think built the courthouse. Probably then he would have said slaves. But he sits here and he says he don't know, but knows who commissioned it. It blows my mind. I just wanted to motivate my vote on this because, again, I think, yes, monuments should be protected. It will get my support with a lot of reservations. Mr. Chairman, I would like the presenter of the motion to know that because the motion came in the last shower of the rain. It wasn't presented to my person to review it. However, like I said, in principle, I can support this motion. But to have faith in the government carrying it out and seeing these things done, I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't see it happening at all. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Emmanuel. The next person is MP Melissa Gumbs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I too will support this motion. I share its sentiment, and I slightly, doubt but hope still that it is executable by the government because it does say a lot for writing the course that the country has been going. To be true, Mr. Chairman, the Diamond Estate ruins are not the only ones that have been destroyed in the sake of development on this island. Slave walls in Kupakoi, slave walls all over this island have been destroyed for the sake of development, but I truly hope that that will soon come to a stop. There's a lot of history in this country pre-10-10-10, but there's a lot of history post-10-10-10 as well as to who will have to bear the blame for how we got here and how we seem to keep staying here. Either way, the motion will have my support, and I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Gumbs. The next person I see is MP Ludmila D. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In reading this initially, I had a little bit of reservations because of the fact that I needed a little bit of legal advice, as well as the fact that this was sort of trying to take action after the fact that something was already destroyed. But then, after the amendments and then having a discussion, you see that even though this is about one specific instance, it is opening the doors to further improvements and further corrections and further protection of whether you want to call it our heritage, our environment, our society. And the reason that I am going to support this is because it's shoving the responsible parties, giving them a little bit of a push to go around and make sure that they protect our heritage. It also, in saying that, actually, what I do want to say is it's a step in the right direction of what I want to see when I expect the same for protecting our beach, just like Mulla Bay. I expect the same for protecting our waters, like Little Bay Pond, that has been destroyed by sewage and potential filling in of another development. And I also hope that it will also be protecting areas or stuff like the mangroves by Prince Bernard Bridge. So with that being said, I will support this. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, MP De Weaver. The next person is MP Grisha Heyliger-Marten.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to everyone. This motion, it has my support, first and foremost. It has my support because for once we can now say that we have something in place to preserve our monuments. But I'm also, I do have a few reservations. I would ask the MP that tabled the motion to at least have a little legal advice on it. But you know something? I'm not sure if the government will be able to execute what is being instructed here, but we'll wait and see. I look forward to having, a report, an update from them 3 months from now. But important is that whoever it was that demolished the ruins without permission should be fined. That's the regular thing. It should be fined. The usual fine should take place. It was, as the minister stated, no permit was given out. So of course they should be fined. So I'll await the minister's investigation on that, and I'll support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Grisha Heyliger-Marten. The next person I have is MP Solange Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too will be supporting the motion. But what I must say is that on the other end of this motion are civil servants that need to carry out the work. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a capacity crisis. But we do have resources. I have seen ministers in this government be very creative with budget. So if there is a need for capacity to support those on the ground, I really hope that the government can give them the support that they need. Yeah. So I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Duncan. The next person I have is MP Rolando Bryson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first, of course I can. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would again like to reiterate and summarize my motivation for having presented this motion. Like I said, it's good, I think, at this point for the Parliament to take certain stances on these things. I'll be very clear. If I have a friend or a family member or anyone that did something wrong in the past or do something today, I will acknowledge. I will be here to vote on such a motion with them because wrong is wrong. And the people that know me, the people that I interact with, unlike those that allow their own family members and friends to get away with anything and not call them out on it, that's the reason why I went through what I went through in the last 3 years. Because so-called friends, so-called party members don't like to be called out on their wrongdoing. I will do so. But Mr. Chairman, I think this motion, if it is the mention of what happened in the past with slave wars, yeah, that's wrong. And if there's a retroactive thing that has to be done to deal with that, well, bring it. Let's address all these things. Let's address all the ills of the past. But most importantly, what I like is that this allows the government sitting there to create a precedent going forward as well. Mr. Chairman, I also wanted to point out that the recommendations of the Monument Council that are stated in these considerations, this was something that came out as a press release, and I took it very serious. However, in order to complete the motion, I needed the answers from the ministers in the first round in order to create the motion. And as members of parliament know, if I have a motion fully created before the discourse, I would be happy to share it with the members of parliament. However, based on the answers that I received today was when I knew, okay, this is going in the right direction. Based on the answers received, I then type it and send it to other members of parliament. So to my colleague, Emmanuel, you will always have my motions as long as possible. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank the fact that we have this motion here and will be voting for, of course.
Thank you, MP Bryson. The next person is MP George. MP George, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have come to this point, and like the speakers before me, definitely, Mr. Chairman, I will be supporting this motion. Again, the onus now is on the sitting government to ensure that the sins of the past are not repeated and ensure that we protect the future of our citizens of this country. And as the motion stated, within 90 days, they should return to Parliament. And we do hold them to this 90 days, Mr. Chairman, because it cannot be that a motion is passed and then it dies a natural death. It has happened too much in the past when motions have been passed and then you hear nothing about it. And I believe this is a very, very important motion as those that have been passed in this Parliament. I look forward to a report from the government as soon as they have accomplished this task. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP George. The next person I see is MP Angelique Rumu.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, would like to extend my support to this motion. But besides supporting the motion, I look to the minister sitting in front of me, and I would like to challenge you to indeed make sure that within 3 months, there is an answer and there's a way moving forward with this motion. Because just like my colleague MP Pontiflet said, we have seen so many motions being passed in Parliament and nothing coming out of it. And I cannot sit here today and believe that you would allow this to happen to such a very important motion that talks about and reflects on our cultural heritage and the protection thereof. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Angelique Rumu. We now go over to the voting, and we start with the number 1. Number 9.
MP Rayon Peterson. MP Hyacinth Richardson.
4.
MP Angelique Rumu.
4.
MP Ludmila De Weaver.
4.
MP Sarah Westcott Williams. MP Rolando Bryson.
4.
MP Solange Duncan.
4.
MP Christophe Emmanuel.
4.
MP Melissa Gumbs. 4. MP Grisha Heyliger-Marten.
4.
MP William Marlin. MP George Pontiflet.
4.
Chairman Sidhad Bishlani.
4. Motion number 1 is accepted with 410 and against 0. I would like to thank the Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports, Dr. Rudolph Samuel, the Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, Mr. Edward Duran, and their support staff for their presence here today and for providing the necessary information. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting. I thank you all for your participation, and I hereby close this meeting.